Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive on unlocking life. We're going to take a deep dive into some of the most valuable insights and really understand why they've resonated so much with readers. But first, maybe give a little background on the book itself.
Yeah, what's really interesting about Unlocking Life is that it's not your typical self-help book. It's not one of those books that's just like filled with generic advice, you know? It's really grounded in research. It offers a lot of different perspectives, and it really is meant to be read cover to cover. It's sort of like a journey. But you can absolutely jump between chapters based on what interests you most.
Like having your own roadmap, but you can kind of choose your own path. And also, the author's background is pretty interesting. Master's in rehabilitation counseling, a decade in the military as a civil engineer, and then working as a counselor for the Department of Veterans Affairs. That's a very unique blend of experience.
It is. And then you add in his personal journey, right? Facing the loss of friends to suicide, the passing of his life partner, and then just navigating the complexities of relationships. So you see how all of these experiences, coupled with his own therapy journey, have really shaped his perspective. It's no surprise that he also hosts the Information for Life podcast to share these insights.
Yeah, walking the walk. So let's unlock some of those key insights. One of the first things that grabbed me was this idea of resilience, or I guess a fresh take on resilience.
Yeah, so the book presents resilience as a journey, right? It's a journey of growth. It's not this fixed trait that you either have or you don't. Mm-hmm. And it really redefines strength. Instead of this idea of, physical prowess or intellectual dominance, it really emphasizes the power of bouncing back from adversity. With humility, with resilience. It's like facing challenges with this quiet confidence that stems from knowing that you can weather any storm.
Right. And it resonates with what you've shared about your own experiences, facing setbacks and then coming out stronger on the other side. It's not about avoiding hardship, but learning to navigate it.
Exactly. And the book has this great aha moment from the author that really drives this point home. He talks about this realization he had where he was giving too much weight to someone else's opinion of him. And that was a turning point for him because he realized that self-worth shouldn't be dictated by these external judgments. It should come from within.
That's huge for anybody who's ever, felt defined by someone else's perception of them. It's like unlocking life really gives you that power to reclaim that and define your own worth.
Precisely. And speaking of empowerment, there's another gem in this book, self-compassion. And this is often misunderstood as self-indulgence, but the book really clarifies that it's actually about radical self-acceptance.
So it's not about letting yourself off the hook, but it's about treating yourself with that same kindness and understanding you'd offer a friend going through the same thing.
Yeah. And this self-compassion, it's not just this feel-good concept. The book highlights its real impact. It links it to reduced anxiety, reduced depression, stronger resilience, and increased empathy. It's like this ripple effect of positive change.
Yeah. I can see how just that shift in perspective can make a huge difference, especially when you're dealing with difficult situations. Does the book offer any specific examples of that?
Absolutely. One that stands out is how self-compassion can help when you're dealing with failed conflict resolution. So instead of spiraling into self-blame, you can acknowledge your pain, acknowledge your role in the situation, but without that harsh judgment. And this creates space for healing, understanding both within yourself and in the relationship.
That's so valuable, especially for someone like you who's been working on setting healthier boundaries in relationships. It's about that balance between accountability and self-forgiveness. Now, on the topic of moving forward, unlocking life also dives into letting go.
Yeah. Letting go is presented as a way of not forgetting, but growing from your experiences. It's acknowledging that sometimes love is not enough to sustain a relationship.
Right. And it's that thing that clinging on to something that's no longer serving you is only preventing, both of you from moving forward. Does the book give any insight into how to navigate that?
It emphasizes that letting go can be an act of love, a way of setting both ourselves and the other person free. And the author, he even shares his own experience with heartbreak. He advises that letting go might require releasing a part of ourselves that was tied to that relationship. It's a painful process, but ultimately leads to greater self-awareness and growth.
It's deep. And I can see why that resonates with so many readers,
Yeah.
Going through similar experiences, recognizing that endings, even painful ones, can pave the way for new beginnings. Speaking of new beginnings, Unlocking Life also explores the concept of inner peace, and I know this is something you're very passionate about.
Yeah. Inner peace, especially in today's world, the chaos. It's more than just this nice to have, it's essential. And the book makes a distinction between mindfulness and meditation, explaining how both of those things cultivate this inner peace. It's about finding that quiet center within yourself, regardless of what's happening externally.
And I found that even just having that sense of inner peace, it just makes me feel more grounded. It just helps me deal with things better. Does the book dive into any of the benefits of cultivating that?
Absolutely. It highlights a range of benefits: reduced stress, reduced anxiety, improved decision-making, and even stronger relationships. It's about bringing that inner peace into all areas of your life.
It makes sense. So for those looking for tools, for strategies to actually start applying these insights, are there any chapters you would recommend?
If you're wanting to understand resilience as a journey, definitely check out the Road to Resilience section. It really helps shift your perspective, seeing resilience not as something you have or don't have, but as a process you can develop.
And then for anyone, navigating heartbreak, I'm assuming Beyond Heartbreak is probably a good section to check out.
Absolutely. It focuses on embracing change and finding the strength to move on after a relationship ends, seeing heartbreak not as an end, but as a catalyst for transformation.
Love that. And there's finding strength and letting go, which I think would be really helpful for anyone struggling to, let go of a past experience, past relationship. It really teaches you to cherish those memories, but still move forward.
And to round out those recommendations, I'd suggest the Celebrating Self chapter, all about self-discovery and acceptance, which are really crucial for anyone embarking on this journey of personal growth. And finally, for those who find endings particularly difficult, The Art of Embracing Endings offers a fresh perspective. It reframes endings as opportunities for new beginnings, not as failures.
Those are some great chapters to get started with. But Unlocking Life doesn't stop there. It also covers other essential things. It dives into navigating relationships, understanding compatibility, deciphering the psychology behind how we make decisions, even dealing with difficult people.
Yeah. It even explores the impact of trauma, setting boundaries to protect your energy, how to manage stress effectively, and even understanding societal issues like the gender pay gap.
Wow. And it's incredible how it manages to weave these societal issues into this framework for personal and financial success.
Yeah.
It doesn't shy away from these things. It equips you to deal with them.
And if you find yourself wanting to dive even deeper into these topics, the author has the Information for Life podcast, where he kind of expands on these things, shares even more practical advice. He even encourages listeners to reach out with questions or topic suggestions through his email, askinformationforlife@gmail.com.
That's going above and beyond. He even provides links to all of his podcast platforms and social media at https://linktr.ee, East Information for Life. It's clear that he is passionate about helping people unlock their potential. But let's shift the focus to you. What's one thing that stood out to you from all of this?
What fascinates me is how the book challenges those conventional ideas about strength and resilience. It moves beyond this idea of just burying your feelings, and it actually encourages you to acknowledge your vulnerabilities. It sees them as part of the process.
Embracing the full human experience, both the ups and the downs. And I guess strength is really just being able to navigate both of those. And that's where that self-compassion comes in. It gives you permission to be kind to yourself, even when you're struggling, which is something I think we all need to hear more of.
Absolutely. We're all works in progress.
Now, this whole thing about defining our own self-worth, how do we actually do that in a world that's constantly telling us who we should be and what we should value?
Well, it takes conscious effort, a willingness to question those messages that are coming at us, to step back and ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does this feel true to me?
Tuning out the external noise and tuning into your own internal compass, your own sense of what's right for you. And I imagine that takes a lot of self-reflection. That willingness to look inward and really examine your beliefs and your motivations.
Definitely. And remember that self-compassion we talked about earlier? That's essential here too. It's being kind to ourselves as we navigate this process of self-discovery and not beating ourselves up if we stumble along the way.
That's a good reminder. Now, one thing that really stood out to me about the author's approach is how he actually uses his personal experiences, particularly the difficult ones, to really illustrate these concepts. It makes the book so relatable and impactful.
Absolutely. It's not just theory, it's grounded in real life experience, which makes it all the more powerful.
Okay, so let's say someone's feeling overwhelmed with stress. How can they use that idea of inner peace to navigate that?
Well, it's not about pretending the stress isn't there. It's about finding a sense of calm amidst the chaos.
Not eliminating the stress, but changing our relationship to it. finding that internal anchor that keeps us grounded even when things are rough.
Exactly. And then that inner peace allows you to approach those challenges with a clear mind and a more balanced perspective. It's like having that reserve of strength.
Speaking of challenges, let's talk about navigating conflict.
Well, conflict is a natural part of life, especially in relationships. It's all about how we handle it.
And that's where communication comes in, right?
Yeah,
Being able to express your needs, your feelings in a way that's both honest and respectful.
absolutely. The book talks about finding that common ground, using those de-escalation techniques, and even recognizing when it's best to step away from a conflict and just cool down.
Knowing when to engage and when to disengage. Choosing the right approach. Now, we've talked about, the positive aspects of relationships, but what about dealing with the, not so good stuff like toxic people or navigating betrayal? Does Unlocking Life go into those things?
It definitely doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. It even talks about recognizing narcissistic traits, something that we see a lot these days. And then it talks about learning how to protect yourself in those types of dynamics.
So important. And sometimes that protection means walking away from a relationship even when it's really difficult.
Absolutely. It's about prioritizing your well-being and recognizing that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to remove yourself from that harmful situation.
It makes you think about the role of boundaries.
Boundaries are crucial. They protect us from being taken advantage of, emotionally drained, or feeling resentful.
And Unlocking Life actually gives specific strategies for setting those and maintaining those boundaries. Being clear about your needs, communicating them assertively, and also respecting the boundaries of others. It's a delicate balance, but it's essential.
It's about respecting yourself and expecting that same respect from others.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about personal growth. We've touched on it throughout our conversation, but I'd love to dive a bit deeper.
Well, Unlocking Life is just packed with strategies for personal growth. It highlights that importance of self-discovery, embracing change, learning from our experiences, both positive and those challenging ones.
I love that it encourages celebrating yourself, celebrating those accomplishments, recognizing that we often downplay our own successes. It's about acknowledging your own worth and giving yourself credit for how far you've come.
Absolutely. It's recognizing that growth, no matter how big or small.
And one of the things I appreciate about the book is it doesn't just focus on the internal stuff. It also addresses those societal issues we were talking about earlier, like the gender pay gap, and provides those tools for success, not just in our personal lives, but in our careers and finances too.
It recognizes that our personal growth is interconnected with the world around us. It's about taking those internal shifts and using them to make a positive impact in our communities and beyond.
And it even gets into the practicalities of things like finances, productivity, and even dealing with procrastination, which I think we all struggle with from time to time.
It's like this holistic guide to living a more fulfilling and successful life, but on your own terms.
And it doesn't shy away from the practical stuff, which is so important. It embraces those real-life challenges and provides those actionable strategies to help you overcome them.
Exactly. It's recognizing that personal growth isn't just about these lofty ideals. It's about taking those practical steps to create that life that you want.
So we've talked about resilience, self-compassion, letting go, inner peace, and even some of those specific tools for growth. But there's one more theme I want to touch on: emotional availability.
Yeah, emotional availability is crucial for forming those deep, meaningful connections that I think we all crave. It's about being present both for ourselves and for others, and being able to engage in those relationships in a healthy and authentic way.
And the book explores what it means to be emotionally available, both in romantic relationships and in just, all types of relationships. It dives into those attachment styles and how they influence our ability to connect.
Recognizing our own patterns and learning how to communicate our needs effectively, which can be a game changer in any relationship.
Now, one thing that really stands out to me about the author's approach is his willingness to share his own vulnerabilities and struggles. It makes the book that much more powerful, that much more relatable.
It does. It's that vulnerability that makes him human, that makes those insights resonate on such a deeper level.
Okay, let's talk about something that's pretty relevant in today's world: social media. How does Unlocking Life address the impact of social media on our relationships and our self-esteem?
It really dives into how social media can affect our relationships and self-esteem, even highlighting like how to recognize those narcissistic traits in online interactions.
It's so easy to get caught up in this curated, perfection that we see online. Start comparing ourselves, and that can be so damaging.
It really does. The book really encourages us to be mindful of our online behavior, to prioritize authentic connections over those superficial ones, and just recognize that what we see online is often a carefully constructed facade.
Remembering that your worth is not determined by the number of likes or followers you have. It's about finding validation from within, not those external sources.
Exactly. And that leads to this concept of the ego, which the book explores in depth.
What's the book's take on the ego?
It really emphasizes the importance of having a healthy ego, recognizing your own strengths and accomplishments, but also acknowledging those limitations, finding that sweet spot between confidence and humility.
Recognizing that you're worthy, that you're capable, but also being open to learning and growing. And that's a lifelong process.
It is. And the book provides practical advice for cultivating that healthy ego, emphasizing self-reflection, embracing humility, and focusing on personal growth, not just for ourselves, but for the betterment of everyone around us.
Recognizing that your worth isn't defined by that external validation, but by your own internal sense of self.
Precisely. And that internal sense of self is what allows us to navigate life's complexities with confidence and authenticity.
Now, one thing that I think is particularly relevant to many of our listeners is dealing with the silent treatment. It's something that comes up in a lot of relationships, and it can be so hurtful and damaging. Does unlocking life go into this?
Absolutely. The book tackles it head on. It explains why it's such a harmful form of communication, and then it offers strategies for dealing with it in a healthier way.
So instead of shutting down, withdrawing, it encourages open, honest communication, even when it's difficult.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the silent treatment is avoidance, and true intimacy requires vulnerability and that willingness to engage in those difficult conversations.
Okay. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about a topic that's often seen as taboo, but it's incredibly important, especially in the context of relationships. Cheating. Does unlocking life actually delve into that?
It does, and it takes a nuanced approach. It acknowledges that there are many different reasons why people cheat, that it's not always black and white. It explores the impact of cheating on relationships, and then it offers those strategies for rebuilding trust.
It's about understanding the complexities of human behavior and recognizing that there's often more to the story than what we initially see. And while infidelity can be damaging, it's not always the end of the relationship.
Right. With communication, a willingness to work through the pain, and a commitment to rebuilding that trust, it is possible to heal and move forward.
Now, I'm curious about another type of relationship that's becoming more common. Ethical non-monogamy. Does unlocking life touch on this at all?
It does. It acknowledges the growing prevalence of ethical non-monogamy, and it provides some guidelines for navigating these types of relationships responsibly.
So it's recognizing that there are different ways to structure relationships and that what works for one couple might not work for another. And as long as there's open communication, honesty, and respect, there's really no right or wrong way to do relationship.
Exactly. It's about finding what works best for you and your partner or partners and creating a relationship structure that feels authentic and fulfilling for everyone involved.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the heavy stuff. Let's end on a lighter note. What about the role of humor in relationships?
Oh, humor is so valuable. It's connection, stress relief, and even navigating those difficult conversations we were just talking about. The book encourages us to find the humor in everyday life and to not take ourselves too seriously.
Laughter is the best medicine. It can diffuse tension, bring people closer, and remind us that even amidst the challenges, there's always room for joy.
Absolutely. It's finding those moments of lightness and using them to strengthen those bonds with others.
Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about a topic that's been on my mind lately. The impact of technology on our relationships. It's something we've touched on throughout our conversation, but I'd love to dive a little deeper.
Yeah. Technology has really revolutionized how we connect, but it's also created some unique challenges. Unlocking Life addresses these head-on, encouraging us to be more mindful of how we use technology and to prioritize face-to-face interactions whenever possible.
It's about finding that balance between staying connected digitally and also nurturing those real-life connections that are so vital for our well-being.
Exactly. It's recognizing that technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to make those choices.
Okay, so let's talk about a topic that's often taboo, but it's incredibly important. Sex. Does unlocking life even go there?
It does, and it approaches sex and sexuality with a sense of openness and respect, recognizing that they're a natural and healthy part of life.
Encouraging that open communication and exploration, but within the context of a healthy relationship, right?
Absolutely. And it also addresses really important topics like consent, sexual boundaries, and navigating those different sexual preferences.
It's about creating that space for open and honest conversations about these things, which is so important for intimacy and trust.
It is. And it's about recognizing that everyone deserves to feel safe and respected in their sexual relationships.
Now, I want to end our conversation on a note of reflection. With everything we've talked about today, what's one thing that you're going to take away from exploring unlocking life?
The book's emphasis on synergy and healing within relationships, especially when dealing with past trauma, really stood out to me. It's this idea that the relationship itself can be this catalyst for transformation, for growth. When both partners are committed to healing and supporting each other, it becomes this incredible force for positive change. And it's not about ignoring the pain, pretending it didn't happen. It's about facing it together, using it as an opportunity to build something even stronger, more resilient.
That's a beautiful takeaway. It's that reminder that even in those moments of pain, those moments of adversity, there's always potential for growth, for healing. And sometimes the most profound healing happens within those loving and supportive relationships. For me, I think the biggest thing is this: embracing the power of restraint, especially when you're faced with those difficult situations, those intense emotions. It's so easy to react impulsively, but true strength really does lie in choosing a more measured and thoughtful response.
It is. It's recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond, and choosing restraint can lead to those more positive outcomes. And that's what unlocking life is all about, making conscious choices that lead to that more fulfilling life.
It's been a deep dive indeed. And as you continue on your own journey of unlocking your potential, remember to be kind to yourself, embrace your uniqueness, and never stop exploring.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure of discovery. Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep unlocking those incredible possibilities that life has to offer. It's fascinating how unlocking life goes into those past traumas and how they can really influence our present relationships. It goes beyond just saying, trauma affects us, and it actually gets into the science behind it.
Okay, so unpack that a little bit. So you mean like how those past hurts can make us react in ways that, maybe don't make sense in the present moment?
Exactly. The book talks about the amygdala, that part of our brain that processes emotions, and how it creates these shortcuts based on those past experiences. So even in a new relationship where there's no actual threat, your amygdala might be triggering those familiar feelings of, fear or anxiety if it senses any sort of similarity to a past hurt.
It's like our brain trying to protect us from getting hurt again.
Precisely. And the book gives this really relatable example. Imagine someone who was, let's say, cheated on in a past relationship. Now, whenever their current partner is running late or doesn't answer their phone right away, they might start experiencing those same feelings of anxiety, those suspicions, even if their partner has given them absolutely no reason to doubt their fidelity.
That's a light bulb moment for me. That makes sense why sometimes our reactions feel so out of proportion to what's actually happening. But how do we break free from that cycle? How do we stop letting those past traumas dictate our present?
Well, that's where this concept of doing the math comes in. So instead of just reacting based on emotions that are rooted in those past hurts, the book encourages us to step back, look at the situation objectively.
So pausing before reacting, taking a breath. Asking yourself, is there any real evidence to support those fears?
Exactly. It's separating those past experiences from the present reality. Ask yourself, has my partner given me a concrete reason to distrust them in this specific instance? It's consciously choosing to build trust in a healthier way.
That makes a lot of sense. But I imagine that's really hard to put into practice, especially when those wounds are still kind of raw.
It takes effort. It takes a willingness to look inward. And remember, the book also emphasizes that seeking professional help is not a sign of weakness. It can actually be a sign of strength. A therapist can give you those tools and support to work through those traumas, develop healthier coping mechanisms.
It's so important to remember you don't have to go through this alone. There's support, and seeking it out is really a sign of courage. Now, shifting gears a bit, something else that stood out to me was the discussion around boundaries, especially when it comes to finances.
Yeah, financial boundaries are so crucial in any relationship. It's about respecting each other's financial independence and making sure that money doesn't become a breeding ground for conflict.
And I love that the book goes into like the psychology behind why some people take other people's money for granted.
Yeah.
It's not always like malicious. Sometimes it's just patterns, right? Unexamined beliefs.
Right. It explores that sense of entitlement that can sometimes develop when someone hasn't earned their own money or when they come from a background where money was just always available.
So it's about recognizing those patterns, having those sometimes uncomfortable conversations about money early on, setting those clear expectations to prevent those potential problems down the road.
Exactly. Financial transparency and open communication, that's key to building that healthy foundation.
Now let's talk about something that I think we can all relate to. Procrastination, we all do it sometimes, but unlocking life actually offers some like tangible strategies for overcoming it, boosting that motivation.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is how the book gets into the science behind habit formation. It breaks down what's called the habit loop into three key components: the cue, the routine, and the reward.
So it's like rewiring our brains, right? Instead of just saying stop procrastinating, we can actually understand like what's driving that behavior. Can you break down the habit loop a little bit more?
Sure. So the cue is what triggers the behavior, the routine is the behavior itself, and the reward is what reinforces that habit. So if you're trying to break a bad habit like procrastination, the book says you need to identify the cue, change that routine, and find a new, more desirable reward. It's about disrupting the cycle.
That's so helpful. And the book also emphasizes setting clear goals, finding ways to stay motivated throughout the process. It even mentions like deep work, this concept of really focusing on a task for extended periods, minimizing those distractions.
Yeah, deep work is all about creating the right environment for productivity, silencing those notifications, closing those extra tabs, giving your full attention to the task at hand.
Reclaiming our focus. Now, on the topic of prioritizing well-being, Unlocking Life really talks about the importance of sleep, something we often take for granted.
Right. We all know we need sleep, but the book goes deeper than that. It goes into the science behind why it's so crucial for our physical and mental health. It's when our brain processes information, consolidates memories, and repairs our bodies.
It affects everything, our mood, our focus, even decision-making. It's like that reset button for our whole system.
Exactly. And it's not just about quantity, it's about quality too. The book emphasizes creating this relaxing bedtime routine, avoiding caffeine, alcohol before bed, making sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, conducive to restful sleep.
Making it a priority. Now, Unlocking Life doesn't just focus on personal growth, it also talks about some pretty big societal issues. One that caught my eye was the discussion on the gender pay gap.
Yeah. What's interesting is how the book challenges some of those common assumptions about why this gap exists, like the idea that women are just less assertive when negotiating salaries, or that they inherently choose lower paying professions.
It's about looking beyond those surface level explanations and really getting to the systemic factors.
Exactly. The book provides this more nuanced perspective, factoring in those societal expectations, those gender stereotypes that can influence career choices, and even an unconscious biases that can affect those hiring and promotion decisions.
So recognizing that it's this complex issue with these roots in societal structures and those deeply ingrained beliefs.
And it even goes into like the psychology behind how we perceive and interact with different genders, talking about how our personal experiences, often shaped by cultural conditioning, can lead to those unconscious biases and those gender-based judgments.
So becoming more aware of those biases, challenging those beliefs, and actively working towards a more equitable and just society, recognizing that inherent worth and value in every individual regardless of their gender.
Absolutely. Creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential, unhindered by outdated gender norms or discriminatory practices.
Now, another societal issue the book tackles is free speech. And that can be a tricky one, right?
It is. It's about finding that balance between upholding the importance of free speech in a democratic society, but also recognizing that words have power and should be used responsibly.
It makes a clear distinction between, expressing your opinions and using words to intentionally harm others. Understanding that free speech doesn't mean you get to be cruel or insensitive.
Right. It's considering that potential impact and choosing to use your voice to build up, not tear down. It's fostering that constructive dialogue, engaging in that respectful debate, even when you disagree.
Now, for something a little lighter, I was kind of intrigued by the book's exploration of thirst traps. That's not a topic you usually see in personal development books.
Right. It's a surprising but fascinating inclusion. It actually delves into the psychology behind thirst traps, exploring those underlying motivations for why people post them.
So it's not just about attention seeking.
No. It's about understanding those deeper needs for validation and those complex ways social media can impact our self-esteem.
It's about recognizing your inherent worth and not letting your self-esteem be determined by, how many likes or comments you get, finding that validation from within.
And that ties back into this idea of the ego. The book stresses developing this healthy ego where you recognize your strengths, but also acknowledge those limitations, that balance between confidence and humility.
So not about inflating your ego or seeking that external validation, but cultivating that grounded sense of worth that comes from within.
Precisely. Being comfortable in your own skin, embracing those imperfections, and recognizing that your worth isn't based on the opinions of others.
Now, one thing that can be a real struggle, especially in today's world, is dealing with hypervigilance.
Oh, yeah, hypervigilance, that state of constant alertness, anxiety, it can be so draining. And it can stem from past trauma or just living in this, constantly stimulating environment.
And the book explores how it can impact our relationships, making it hard to relax, trust others, or even feel safe.
Right. And it really emphasizes addressing those root causes. So it might involve seeking professional help to process trauma or learning coping mechanisms to manage that stress, that anxiety.
The book even mentions specific therapies like CBT and EMDR, which can be really helpful in treating trauma-related hypervigilance.
It's recognizing that healing is possible and those effective tools are out there.
It's about regaining that sense of safety and control, both internally and within those relationships. Now, let's talk about something that's universal, but often hard to talk about: grief and loss.
Unlocking Life approaches grief with so much compassion, understanding, recognizing it's a natural part of life and a process we all go through.
It emphasizes allowing yourself to feel those emotions fully. No judgment. It's acknowledging that grief can be different for everyone. There's no right or wrong way.
And it even gets into this idea of emotional codependency, which can sometimes develop, after a loss, where we become too reliant on others for our emotional well-being. It encourages seeking support when you need it, whether from friends, family, or a therapist, and reminding yourself that healing takes time.
Giving yourself grace.
Exactly. And remembering that even amidst grief, there's still beauty and joy to be found. It's about honoring those we've lost while also allowing ourselves to heal, to move forward.
Now, shifting gears, Unlocking Life also talks about authenticity. I know that's something you're really passionate about.
Yeah, authenticity, being true to yourself, letting your real self shine through, that's essential for meaningful connections. The book explores those challenges of being authentic in a world that often tells you to conform, to fit in.
Resisting that pressure to be someone you're not, embracing those quirks and imperfections.
Precisely. The book even offers some practical tips for cultivating authenticity, like being more mindful of your thoughts, your actions, setting boundaries to protect yourself from negativity, and surrounding yourself with those who appreciate you for who you are.
It's about creating a life that feels aligned with your values and allows you to just show up as your genuine self.
And that can be so liberating. Now let's talk about something that can be really tough: navigating those difficult conversations.
Yeah, whether it's a conflict in a relationship, setting boundaries with a loved one, or even having that tough conversation at work, those can be really emotionally charged, and we often just avoid them.
Unlocking Life provides some strategies for approaching these conversations with honesty, with respect, emphasizing choosing the right time and place, being ready to listen to the other person, and staying calm even when things get heated.
It even gives tips on how to avoid defensiveness and staying focused on finding that resolution that works for everyone.
It's recognizing that those difficult conversations, they can be an opportunity for growth and understanding. They allow us to clear the air, strengthen those bonds, and move forward in a more positive way.
Now, communication is a theme that runs throughout the book, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Unlocking Life really highlights the importance of clear, open, and honest communication, both personally and professionally. It explores all the different ways we communicate, not just words, but also body language, actions.
So being mindful of how we're showing up, both verbally and non-verbally.
Exactly. And it encourages us to strive for understanding in our communication, to really listen to what the other person is saying, not just waiting for our turn to talk.
Creating that space for real dialogue, for connection. Now let's talk about something super relevant today: social media and its impact on mental health.
Oh, yeah. Social media, it's a double-edged sword. It can be great for staying connected, getting information, but it can also negatively impact our mental health.
The book talks about those downsides. The pressure to be perfect, the comparisons, the fear of missing out, all leading to feeling inadequate, anxious.
Right. It encourages us to be mindful of our social media use, set those boundaries to protect ourselves, and even take those breaks from it to reconnect with ourselves with the real world.
Remembering that what we see online is often just a curated version of reality, not the whole picture, and that our well-being comes first.
Exactly. Now let's talk about something that can drain our energy, dealing with poisonous people.
We all encounter them, the ones who bring negativity, drama, and conflict into our lives. Unlocking Life gives strategies for recognizing these individuals and setting those boundaries.
It's about recognizing our right to choose who we let in and to distance ourselves from those who constantly bring us down.
And it's not about being unkind or judgmental.
Right. It's about prioritizing our own well-being and recognizing that sometimes the most loving thing we can do is create distance.
Self-preservation. Now, one of the most challenging things we face is heartbreak. Unlocking Life offers this really compassionate perspective on how to navigate that.
It encourages us to let ourselves grieve the loss, feel that pain, and honor the time we shared.
Recognizing it's a process, no set timeline for healing.
And while it's painful, it's an opportunity for growth, a chance to learn from it, reflect on what we want, and get clearer on our values and needs.
Using it to become stronger, more self-aware.
Precisely. And remembering that we're worthy of love and there are others who will cherish us for who we are.
Now let's talk about something crucial for success: emotional intelligence.
Unlocking Life really emphasizes developing that emotional intelligence, that ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions and the emotions of others.
It's about becoming aware of our emotional landscape and learning how to navigate it effectively.
Exactly. The book offers some strategies, focusing on self-awareness, empathy, and effective communication, recognizing that our emotions are valuable and we can use them in a positive way.
It's becoming more in tune with ourselves and others, which can lead to stronger relationships, greater self-awareness, and even better decision-making.
Absolutely. And it's recognizing that everyone experiences emotions differently. There's no right or wrong way to feel.
Now, let's go back to that silent treatment we talked about earlier. It's incredibly damaging, and Unlocking Life explores it in depth.
It explains why it's so harmful. It can be a form of manipulation, It erodes trust and intimacy.
It's not a solution. It's avoiding conflict, shutting down communication, hurting both people.
Exactly. The book encourages us to address it directly, communicate those needs, those feelings in a healthy way, work towards resolving the conflict through open, honest dialogue.
Now, to lighten things up, let's talk about humor in relationships.
Humor is powerful. It connects us, relieves stress, and helps us even with those tough conversations. The book tells us to find humor in everyday life and not take ourselves too seriously.
Laughter truly is the best medicine. It can diffuse tension, bring people closer, and remind us that there's always joy, even amidst the challenges.
Absolutely. Finding those moments of lightness strengthens those bonds with others.
Now, on a more serious note, Unlocking Life talks about cultural sensitivity, something increasingly important today.
Definitely. The book emphasizes being respectful of other cultures, learning about those traditions, beliefs, and avoiding cultural appropriation, taking elements from another culture without understanding or respect.
It's about appreciating the richness of human experience and recognizing we can learn and grow from others who are different from us.
Fostering understanding, respect, and inclusivity in our interactions.
Now let's talk about something painful and challenging. Betrayal. Whether it's in a romantic relationship, a friendship, or with family, it could be devastating.
Unlocking Life approaches betrayal with compassion and understanding, recognizing it as a deeply painful experience that can really shake our trust in others.
It talks about coping with the emotional fallout, rebuilding trust, and moving forward.
And it emphasizes forgiveness not for the other person, but for ourselves. Holding on to that anger hurts us in the long run.
Recognizing forgiveness is a process. It doesn't excuse their actions. It's about releasing those negative emotions, freeing ourselves.
Exactly. Reclaiming our power, choosing to move forward.
Now let's shift to something essential for success: productivity.
Unlocking Life offers a ton of strategies for boosting productivity, achieving those goals, setting clear goals, prioritizing, managing time effectively.
It even mentions specific techniques like time blocking and the Pomodoro technique to help stay focused.
It's about finding what works best for you, creating a system that keeps you organized, keeps you motivated.
And remembering that productivity isn't just about working harder or longer, it's about working smarter.
Exactly. It's about being productive and fulfilled, making progress while enjoying the process.
Now, another essential thing for success, setting boundaries.
Unlocking life really highlights this. It's vital for protecting our well-being, our ability to thrive.
It encourages us to be clear about our limits, to communicate them, whether it's with colleagues, family, or romantic partners.
Recognizing that our time and energy are valuable, we have the right to protect them. It's not selfish, it's self-care.
Now, as we get older, dealing with aging can be challenging. Unlocking life offers a really positive perspective.
Yeah, it encourages us to embrace those changes, seeing it as a natural part of life, filled with new experiences, new opportunities for growth.
Shifting our perspective from decline to transformation, continued learning, exploration, personal evolution.
And it encourages us to focus on those strengths, stay active, both physically and mentally, and be around people who bring joy.
Recognizing it's not about slowing down, but evolving.
Exactly. And that we have so much to offer at every age. Our wisdom, experience, perspective, these are valuable.
Now let's talk about something that's often seen as weakness, but is actually strength. Vulnerability.
Unlocking life explores this, recognizing it's essential for those deep connections.
Letting our guard down, being seen for who we are, and letting others do the same.
And recognizing that it's not oversharing or seeking pity, it's about authenticity, creating space for real intimacy.
Recognizing our imperfections make us human, and true strength is embracing them.
Exactly. Now let's delve into something complex. Love and relationships.
Love and relationships are at the heart of the human experience, and unlocking life offers a really insightful look at them.
Communication, trust, respect. It encourages us to be mindful of our own needs and the needs of our partners.
Creating that space where both partners feel heard, seen, valued, and working through those challenges together.
Recognizing relationships take effort. There'll be ups and downs. True intimacy requires vulnerability and honesty.
Now, something helpful in understanding ourselves and our partners is understanding the different attachment styles.
The book dives into attachment theory, explaining those styles and how they impact our relationships.
It talks about how early childhood experiences can shape our attachment patterns and how they play out in our adult relationships.
And it even offers strategies for developing a more secure attachment style, which can lead to greater satisfaction, less anxiety, and a deeper sense of connection.
Okay, let's talk about dealing with difficult people.
Oh, we all encounter them, whether it's a demanding boss, a critical family member, or a dramatic friend.
Unlocking life gives practical advice for navigating those situations, setting boundaries, protecting our energy, and not letting them control our emotions.
It's about recognizing we can't change them, but we can control our response. Choosing to engage or disengage based on what's best for us.
Now let's revisit the gender pay gap. It's a persistent problem, and Unlocking Life addresses it directly, exploring the factors contributing to this inequity.
It looks at the complex interplay of societal expectations, gender stereotypes, unconscious bias, and even systemic discrimination.
So it's not just about women negotiating better or choosing different careers, it's addressing those deep-rooted issues.
It encourages us to be aware, challenge beliefs, and advocate for equal pay for equal work.
It's creating a world where everyone is valued for their work, and gender is no longer a barrier to opportunity.
Exactly. It's about fairness and economic justice.
Now, let's talk about technology's impact on how we communicate.
Technology has changed everything, and Unlocking Life looks at both sides of that.
It acknowledges technology can help us stay connected with loved ones, access information, and build communities.
But it also points out that it can be distracting, disconnecting, even addictive. It encourages being mindful, setting boundaries, and prioritizing face-to-face interactions.
It's about finding that balance between the digital and the real world, staying connected online while nurturing genuine human connection.
Exactly. It's a tool, and we choose how we use it.
Now let's talk about something essential for a fulfilling life, finding our purpose.
Unlocking Life emphasizes identifying our passions and using them to make a difference.
It encourages exploring, experimenting, discovering what lights us up.
And reminding us our purpose doesn't have to be grand. It can be as simple as impacting those around us.
Okay, let's talk about time management.
The book offers strategies for managing our time, recognizing its value.
It talks about setting priorities, breaking down tasks, and using tools to stay organized.
And being mindful of how we spend our time eliminating distractions.
We all have the same 24 hours.
It's up to us to use them wisely.
Now let's talk about dealing with difficult people.
It offers advice, recognizing we all face them.
It talks about setting boundaries and protecting ourselves from their negativity.
Focusing on our well-being, not letting them drain us.
We can't change them, but we can control our response.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about trust, vital for healthy relationships.
It explores how trust is built and broken.
It talks about being trustworthy and being able to trust others.
It offers strategies for rebuilding trust, knowing it takes time, effort, and vulnerability.
It's the foundation of any strong relationship.
Now let's talk about heartbreak.
It offers a compassionate perspective on this painful part of life.
Encouraging us to grieve, heal, and move forward.
Learning from experience, not repeating mistakes.
We are worthy of love, and there are others out there who will cherish us.
Exactly.
Now, communication is key for success.
Unlocking Life emphasizes effective communication, verbal and nonverbal.
We communicate in many ways, not just words, but body language and actions too.
Be mindful of how we show up.
Strive for understanding, really listening, not just waiting to talk.
Let's discuss social media's impact on our well-being today.
Technology has changed how we connect, and the book explores both the good and bad.
Technology can help us stay connected with loved ones and access information.
But it can also be distracting and disconnecting.
Be mindful of our technology use and prioritize face-to-face interactions.
Find a balance.
Now, finding our purpose is essential for a fulfilling life.
The book encourages identifying our passions and using them to make a difference.
Exploring, experimenting, discovering what we love.
Our purpose doesn't have to be huge. It can be impacting those around us.
Okay, time management for personal and professional success.
Managing our time effectively is crucial, and the book offers many strategies.
Setting priorities, breaking down tasks, using tools to stay organized.
Being mindful of how we spend time, eliminating distractions.
We all have the same 24 hours. Use them wisely.
Now, difficult people.
The book offers advice on setting boundaries and protecting ourselves.
Focusing on our well-being, not letting them drag us down.
We can control our response.
Exactly.
Let's talk about trust in healthy relationships.
It's about being trustworthy and being able to trust others.
Rebuilding trust takes time, effort, and vulnerability.
It's the foundation of any strong relationship.
Now, dealing with heartbreak.
It's a painful but necessary part of life.
Grieve, heal, and move forward.
Learn from our experiences and don't repeat mistakes.
We are worthy of love, and there are others out there.
Exactly.
Communication is essential for success.
Effective communication, verbal and nonverbal.
Be mindful of how we communicate.
Strive for understanding.
Social media's impact on our well-being.
Technology has changed how we connect.
Technology can help us stay connected.
But it can also be a distraction.
Be mindful and prioritize face-to-face interaction.
Find a balance.
Now, finding our purpose is essential.
The book encourages us to find what lights us up.
Explore, experiment, discover.
Our purpose can be simple.
Let's talk about time management for success.
Time is valuable.
Set priorities, break down tasks, and use tools to stay organized.
Eliminate distractions.
We have 24 hours. Use them wisely.
Now, dealing with difficult people.
The book offers advice on handling them.
Set boundaries and protect ourselves.
Don't let them bring us down.
Control our response.
Trust is essential for healthy relationships.
It's about being trustworthy and trusting others.
Rebuilding trust takes time and vulnerability.
It's the foundation of any strong relationship.
Dealing with heartbreak.
It's a painful but necessary part of life.
Allow ourselves to grieve, heal, and move on.
Learn from our experiences.
We are worthy of love.
Exactly.
Communication is essential for success.
Effective communication is key.
Be mindful of how we communicate.
Strive for understanding in our interactions.
Let's discuss social media's impact.
Technology has changed how we connect.
Technology can help us stay connected, but it can also be a distraction.
Be mindful of technology use.
Finding our purpose is essential for a fulfilling life.
The book encourages us to discover what lights us up.
Explore, experiment, and discover.
Our purpose can be simple.
Time management is crucial for success.
Time is valuable.
Set priorities and utilize tools.
Eliminate distractions.
We have 24 hours. Use them wisely.
Now, let's talk about dealing with those difficult people.
It's about setting boundaries.
Protecting ourselves.
Don't let them bring us down.
Control our response to them.
Trust is essential for relationships.
It takes time and vulnerability to rebuild.
Dealing with heartbreak is part of life.
Grieve, heal, and move on.
We are worthy of love.
Exactly.
Communication is key for success.
Effective communication is important.
Be mindful of how we communicate.
Strive for understanding.
Social media can have an impact on our well-being.
Technology has changed how we connect.
It can be helpful, but also a distraction.
Be mindful.
Finding our purpose is essential.
The book encourages us to find what brings us joy.
Time management is key for success.
Time is valuable.
Set priorities.
Eliminate distractions.
We have 24 hours. Use them wisely.
Difficult people are a part of life.
It's about setting boundaries.
Protect ourselves.
Don't let them drain our energy.
We can control our response.
Trust is essential for any relationship.
It takes time and effort to rebuild trust.
Heartbreak is a part of life.
It's about grieving, healing, and moving on.
We are all worthy of love.
Exactly.
Communication is crucial for success.
It's important to communicate effectively.
Be mindful of our communication.
Strive for understanding in all our interactions.
Social media's impact can be significant.
Technology has changed how we connect.
Technology can be helpful, but also distracting.
Be mindful of our technology use.
Finding our purpose is essential for a fulfilling life.
The book encourages us to embrace our passions.
Time management is crucial for success.
It's about managing our time wisely.
Let's talk about difficult people.
It's about setting boundaries.
Don't let them bring us down.
We can control our response.
Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship.
It takes time and effort to rebuild.
Heartbreak is a part of life.
Grieve, heal, and move forward.
We are all worthy of love.
Exactly.
Communication is essential for success.
Effective communication is important.
Be mindful of how we communicate.
Strive for understanding in all our interactions.
Social media's impact can be significant.
Technology has changed how we connect.
Technology can be helpful, but also distracting.
Be mindful of our technology use.
Finding our purpose is essential for a fulfilling life.
The book encourages us to embrace our passions.
Time management is crucial for success.
It's about managing our time wisely.
Let's talk about those difficult people.
It's about setting boundaries.
Don't let them bring us down.
We can control our response.
Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship.
It takes time and effort to rebuild.
Heartbreak is a part of life.
It's about grieving, healing, and moving forward.
We are all worthy of love. Expert speaker.
It encourages us to allow ourselves to grieve the loss of the relationship and to focus on healing and moving forward.
And it talks about the importance of learning from our experiences, not repeating those past mistakes.
And reminding ourselves that we are worthy of love and that there are other people out there who will appreciate us, cherish us for who we are.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that even in the midst of heartbreak, there's hope for healing and new beginnings. So we've covered a lot of really insightful themes from unlocking life, everything from building resilience and embracing self-compassion to navigating relationships and understanding those societal dynamics that we were talking about earlier. But unlocking life also goes even deeper, offering some really practical advice for those real-life situations, like dealing with PTSD, whether it's our own or supporting a loved one who might be struggling.
It's amazing how the author draws on both his personal and professional experiences to offer that guidance. For example, there's a whole section devoted to helping those who have partners dealing with PTSD. And it really stresses the importance of education, of really understanding what PTSD is and how it affects individuals.
Right. It's not just about being supportive, it's about being informed.
Exactly. And it talks about how partners of those with PTSD need to understand the symptoms, the triggers, and the different treatment options that are available. It's about being an active participant in that healing process.
Right. I remember that. It talks about how partners need to understand those symptoms, the triggers, the different types of treatment options available.
Yeah.
Being an active participant in that healing process, not just a passive bystander.
And it highlights the importance of open communication, creating that safe and supportive space where the person with PTSD feels comfortable sharing their experiences, listening without judgment, offering support without trying to fix them.
And I think what's really powerful is the emphasis on self-care for the partner as well. The partner who is supporting someone with PTSD, because it's so easy to get caught up in caring for someone else that we neglect our own needs.
Oh, absolutely. You can't pour from an empty cup. Taking care of ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally is so crucial if we want to be able to show up for others effectively.
And it even offers those practical tips like making sure you're getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, moving your body regularly, and seeking help for yourself if you need it.
Yeah, those are great starting points. And it also highlights the importance of setting boundaries, recognizing that you can't be everything to everyone. You can't single-handedly heal someone else's trauma, but you can offer support while also taking care of your own well-being.
Finding that balance.
Exactly. And remember, there are so many resources available to help both individuals with PTSD and their loved ones. Organizations like the National Center for PTSD, the National Sexual Assault Hotline, the National Child Abuse Hotline, they all offer incredible support and guidance.
Yeah, it's so important to remember you're not alone in this. There's help available, and reaching out is a sign of strength.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that healing is possible and there's always hope.
So we've explored a lot of insightful and practical advice from Unlocking Life. It's a book that really encourages self-reflection, personal growth, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. But before we wrap up this deep dive, what's one thing you're going to take away from this exploration of Unlocking Life? What's one idea that's really going to stick with you?
You know, the idea of synergy and healing within relationships, particularly when it comes to dealing with past trauma, that really resonated with me. This idea that the relationship itself can be a catalyst for transformation and growth. When both partners are committed to healing and supporting each other, the relationship becomes this incredible force for positive change. It's not about ignoring the pain or pretending it didn't happen. It's about facing it together and using it as an opportunity to build something stronger, more resilient.
That's a beautiful takeaway. It's a reminder that even in the midst of pain and adversity, there's always that potential for growth, for healing. And sometimes the most powerful healing happens within those loving and supportive relationships. And for me, it's that reminder to embrace the power of restraint, especially when it comes to dealing with difficult situations or those really intense emotions. It's so easy to react impulsively or let our emotions get the best of us. But true strength lies in choosing that more measured, thoughtful response.
It really does. It's recognizing that we have that choice in how we respond to challenges, and choosing restraint, even when it's hard, can lead to more positive outcomes. And that's what Unlocking Life is all about, making those conscious choices that lead to a more fulfilling, more meaningful life.
It's been a deep dive indeed. And as you move forward on your own journey of unlocking your potential, remember to be kind to yourself, embrace that uniqueness, and never stop exploring.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure of discovery. Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep unlocking those incredible possibilities that life has to offer.
Thanks for listening.